From Peter at TFC Milan fan, a comment on the form. Canadian squad, is this the best ever assembled? Skill wise, at least it probably is. Do you think the Nations League trophy is incoming if you had to make a prediction right here and right now, Brendan?
Isn't coming was the question.
It is coming.
I think it could come. I'll be honest. I think I have a very difficult time in life being increasingly I'm having a more difficult time grasping that what you've wanted and what you've chased is actually there, that you can it'll be there when you want it. So I think for this Canadian team, seeing how close they actually are, as much as we love this sport and we're all professionals and cover the game, we're fans too. And it's been a long time since Canada's been anywhere close to this. 25 years ago, shouldn't have been a fluke, but the 24 years that came after it made it feel like that. This is very, very different. So yeah, I think this team has every opportunity to win and is built to win. And I really hope that happens. It's going to be tough against Mexico. It's going to feel like a final. A final against likely the United States will be very, very tough. And a couple of years ago, I thought Canada had a much better chance. I really, really thought. I think that's part of it too, why I struggled to answer your question. I went into that final against the U.S. without at all thinking America would win. I just thought it was Canada's for the taking. So I think that's why I have a difficult time looking at this, knowing how strong this team is. And on paper, I would take many of these Canadian players over Mexican and American options if you were trying to build a Nations League final best 11. And I think that they can do it. I
think this is like, they have a shot. I think I can't go out and say they're favorites. At the end of the day, this is a tournament in the U.S. Mexico has experience, but this is their best shot. I just feel like you look at how they've come from 2 years. Like, I guess 2 years ago felt like their best shot, but it was at the time, right? Like, that's something we have to remember is I don't think it's bad to look back on that and feel like it was a bit of a missed opportunity. At the same time, now that we've had the chance to the hindsight, see how things are, we saw a group that maybe was just a bit too old and needed a little bit of a refresh. We saw a group that maybe, John Herdman at the top in terms of what he had done. Maybe he had gotten a bit of the most out of that group, considering, 5 months later, he wasn't even, less than 2 months later, he wasn't even there anymore. Like, a lot of those things we didn't know at that time heading into the final. I think now when you look back, you can see a group that learned to lose. Sometimes it happens all the time. Constantly, team that wins a championship, wins a trophy, wins something in sports, the year or two before, they have heartbreak. They go on, you slay a dragon. For Canada, they have that moment of, yeah, you lost to the U.S. in that final 2 years ago. Like, go beat them this time on their soil. Now you have a group under a coach that's come in and re-energized them. Like we mentioned, the talent is deeper than ever. There's more contributors. Guys are playing at higher levels. Like the guys are elevating in the Canadian shirt. Like, no matter what happens, Jacob Schaffelberg, if he only gives you 10, 20, 30 based on his fitness, he's going to go out and give you something. And, 2 years ago, how many guys were out there giving you that? Like, I think of some guys like an Alphonso Davies, a Jonathan David, some of your big guns. We didn't see as much as them as we would have wanted in that final. I know this year in a final, those guys are going to step up and they're going to put in a shift. So I think there's just something about the energy around this team right now where it definitely feels like they've got their best shot of going and getting this trophy they want so badly.
I think we can also look back at that final in Herdman's last camp, but I guess that was 2 years ago at this point, and think that team was a little bit entitled as well. They had enjoyed this success through CONCACAF and qualifying and had dominated throughout CONCACAF qualifying. Go to the World Cup, it wasn't a great showing overall, and I think we can look back at that and say that they probably should have done better, especially considering that they scored against Croatia in the way that they did as well. But you look at that team and it's like, even the comments from Herdman, that was an entitled group. That was a group that thought they were going to go in and win. The whole message around that whole summer was like, we're going to win a trophy. We have to win a trophy. And it didn't seem like there was a backup plan. That was one that was very defined. And if we don't win, this is failure. And I see this as a similar situation for Canada. But this is a team that, as Brendan, you've said, can learn from the process. Even if this doesn't go to plan and they don't end up with a trophy, we're not going to get a press conference from Jesse Marsch like we did from John Herdman after that last Nations League, where he said, we've got to get serious and the whole situation is very different. Canada Soccer is a different organization at this point than it was back then. But I just don't see this as an entitled group. And that group back then, I think, was in some ways, Brendan.
Yeah, that men's team under Herdman was driven by belief, right? And they continued to hit these milestones and achieve success, very much driven by belief, which strengthened and made them the best team in qualifying. They went to Qatar believing that they had an opportunity to go out of the group, as so many people did. And that's not that crazy when you look at it and say, well, two of the teams that they lost to at the World Cup in Qatar were World Cup semifinalists in that tournament. This is a team, and then they went to Las Vegas for the Nations League with expectation. I think that was the difference. The expectation was, it's our tournament to lose, and perhaps that entitlement is in a large part why they lost, and arguably why John Herdman seemed to lose the room. He did have the Gold Cup after that, but missing the top 8 players or whatever it was. This is very different for Marsch going there now with a team that has shown. They're much stronger than even last May when Marsch took over. So that's the exciting part. They can go there with some belief, and as fans, we can have the expectation that they're going to be in this till the end in both those games.
This also speaks to the identity that Marsch wants, because he's spoken a lot about wanting that American bravado, that confidence. At the same time, he's kind of wanted them to keep a bit of Canadian humility. He's had a bit of Canadian humility where he said, like, yeah, we want to go out here and win. But he gave a lot of respect to Mexico in his press conference. Like, he wasn't looking forward. He wasn't saying we want a trophy. He's like, we want to go in and win. But I find that interesting that Marsch has kind of found that balance of learning that humility that his guys have and harnessing that while also giving them the confidence. But like, their confidence is more how they play, how they carry themselves. And it's less grandiose statements, which in the end, if that's what gets them to go out and win, that's memorable. Because as cold as it would have been if Kyle Larin went out and dropped the we're kings of CONCACAF quotes, and 3 months later they go and win a final, when you lose, you still got US and American or US and Mexican fans laughing. Like, I remember when Kyle Larin said you guys were kings of CONCACAF, how that aged. And I do like that Jesse Marsch has kind of instilled this humility that if this Canadian team is going to go out and win, it's just going to be like, all right, this is what we deserve, on to the next one.